I'm Jason Gumpert, and this is the MSDW podcast. This week we have a special edition for you. It's not really the MSDW podcast at all. Instead, I had the opportunity to get together with some great enterprise software podcasters for a year-end super podcast. The team at Enterprise SuperPodcast, Darcy Boerio, Bob McAdam, and Todd McDaniel, put the event together, and it also included Wayne Schultz of the SMB Jump Street podcast, Peter Wolf of Channel Q and also the SMB Jump Street podcast, and Ed Kless, who does the Sage Advice podcast and the Soul of Enterprise podcast. As it was a mid-December discussion, we all brought our highlights of 2016 to share, as well as some predictions about 2017. The discussion was a lot of fun. It ranged from the obvious highlight in the Dynamics space, the launch of Dynamics 365, to other Microsoft-related and broader enterprise software happenings, and other advances in the larger technology landscape. I want to thank Darcy, Bob, and Todd for organizing the discussion. It was really a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy listening to it.
We've got a plethora of persnickety podcasters here today as we wrap up 2016. Everybody in this room is rolling their eyes. Go figure. Anyway, we thought we would get some friends together and talk 2016, everything that went on in the space this year, to wrap up a podcasting year that's been exciting, and talk about the big story from 2016 and what's coming next year for 2017. So I say, ladies first. Anyone object?
No.
All right.
You're here.
Yes. Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah. So, all right. Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm super excited. This is a really cool group we have here.
It is.
Very cool.
Fun,
so
yes.
I'm excited. But anyhow, Darcy Boerio, Website Pipeline and Enterprise Software Podcast. And I guess we're talking about what was our biggest story on this podcast for 2016. It was absolutely anything related to Dynamics 365. That was probably the story we covered the most. That was probably the episodes that had the highest listenership.
Well, especially on the ERP side. I think I'm not allowed to call it ERP anymore, I guess, but the Project Madeira. There, we'll say that.
Project Madeira, yes.
Yeah, I think we covered that more than the other 2 or 7 pieces, depending on how you cut it up.
Yes, true.
Yeah, we most certainly spent our time when it was coming out. We got to talk to Errol Shanefish when it was just in preview mode and get his thoughts on what was coming.
And how.
Yeah, so I think that the whole Project Madeira, NAV, and the move of the SMB ERP Microsoft offering to an Azure-based closed environment cloud offering, definitely the biggest story in the space that we spend most of our time in.
Yeah, agreed.
So, for better or for worse, but yeah, that was sorry. I mean, all for the better. But no, I mean, it was a big change, and I think, and especially when the pricing came out, the $40 per user per month, it definitely let everybody know Microsoft was here. They were gonna kind of do the Microsoft thing, buy a significant portion of the market if they could in that space, and go after it. So, so remains to be seen. November 1st was the official launch, so we're only a couple months into it by year end, and not many people switch ERP systems between November 1st and January 1st, but I think we'll see a lot more of that in 2017. Not that that's my prediction for 2017.
Too late.
That means I can go home, though.
Okay, so anyway, we didn't introduce ourselves. I'm Bob McAdam here with Enterprise Software Podcast, and you, young man, are...
Yes, Todd McDaniel, Enterprise Software Podcast, Dynavistics. And very young man, yes.
Younger than me, yeah, alas. All right, so who is next on our list here? Maybe we go to Ed Kless.
Hey, folks, this is Ed Kless. I'm with the Sage Advice podcast, and then also do a radio show on Voice America called The Soul of Enterprise.com. I actually just finished up a show just before jumping on here, so pretty happy about that. But I'm gonna stay in the family for you. I am so far removed from product. I'm at Sage 14 years, and I still know none of our products. So I'm pretty proud of that fact.
14 years.
That's
wow.
Yeah. So I know debits equal credit still. That's still the case. But so I'm gonna talk about what was big for me. I'm a political junkie in the fact that the former CEO of Great Plains Software and someone who still sends me a Christmas card every year is now the governor of North Dakota, and that would be Doug Burgum. I'm pretty excited to see what he does as governor, as a politician, if he's going to implement some of the great vision stuff that he talked about with us back in the day, as when I was a Great Plains partner. And I don't know, that was pretty exciting to me. I've never been on a first name basis with a governor before, so
that's awesome. Can you get him on one of your shows, do you think?
I've tried. I've actually tried. We tried to get him on after he announced when he was running, and it just was a little bit crazy. My bet is it's probably easier to get him on now that he's governor than when he was running for governor.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just hoping his state of the state speeches are somewhat like his speeches to the partners and customers at
in the old days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen, brother. They just go on forever. The press, falling over themselves.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic.
An hour and a half about taking soil samples in New Mexico or something. So.
I'm impressed that you're on his Christmas card list. That's really good. Although, yeah, we'll see if you get one this year.
Bob is so jealous.
He is.
This would be the qualifier. I'll let y'all know.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do a special show.
All right. How about Jason Gumpert from the MSDW podcast?
Hey, everyone. Jason Gumpert. I'm the editor at msdynamicsworld.com, and I do the MSDW podcast, too. So if I was going to pick an item from this year, I'm glad you took someone who wasn't picking Dynamics 365 before me to kind of break things up here. But I also have to pick Dynamics 365, and to put a finer point on it, it would be really the launch and going into general availability. I was kind of surprised that Microsoft was able to pull off a sort of a launch of multiple products all within a month or so of each other, from the Dynamics 365 Financials, also known as Project Madeira, the Enterprise apps, so sort of transitioning the CRM and AX into it, and then also going into general availability with Power Apps, Flow, and Common Data Service. So right all in that same time frame together. That impressed me. It surprised me. I thought it was sort of if I was going to pick one thing about the launch, there's no question it was the biggest thing that people in the dynamic space were paying attention to this year. And I guess that would be the one area or the one sort of happening that maybe would put a point on it for me.
In the Dynamics world, we've gone many years with no new product launches. So to get that many in such a short period of time was
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a different organization, I think, than it used to be. I mean, they're not developing the same way. It's not the same people to a large extent. So it's a whole different thing.
Parts of the business edition are going to get a soft launch in 2017, maybe June, because there were just some pieces there that just flat out weren't ready, mainly around the CRM piece. So we will see some more news around, new product launch for more Dynamics 365.
Yeah, and a whole lot more in that business edition, bringing it up to parity with Nav, right? So, or at least with Nav basic Nav.
Yeah, that to me, that's a big part of the story too. Is the mirroring, Dynamics 365 Business and Dynamics NAV looking like they're looking at each other in the mirror, kind of.
Well, yeah, and also the move from the Dynamics partner channel to the CSP partner channel for the partners that are out there, that was definitely a giant change. Mm-hmm. So we have all these nice new products. Now you got to go join a different channel to sell them. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting, to say the least.
All right. How about the gentleman from SMB Jump Street? Let's start with Wayne Schultz. Wayne, how are you?
Hi, that's Wayne Schultz here from SMB Jump Street, and my pick for the year has got to be the buyout of NetSuite. I think in the cloud marketing space, I look at it as more of here's one more competitor down in terms of somebody that we don't have to worry about competing against as much. I don't think history is really kind to big companies swallowing up little companies, even though they sort of have this, common ownership with Ellison and that kind of stuff. I see kind of NetSuite, I think, getting gobbled up by Oracle and not probably being on as many people's short list of cloud accounting systems to evaluate going forward. And for that, I think it's a good thing for people who previously have been competing against NetSuite. I think it's going to be easy to start bringing up Oracle in cost and expense and length of time to implement. And for that, I think it was kind of an early Christmas gift to a lot of people that sell competing cloud. And that's my big story for the year, I think.
Now, is that deal going to go through? Didn't we just discuss recently that it's not?
It's gone. It's done.
It's done. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So it's good.
Closed the beginning of November.
Okay.
Yeah. But playing devil's advocate, though, isn't it a little bit the other way too, though. Like when Microsoft bought Great Plains, etc., all of a sudden you had the backing of a Microsoft behind the little scrappy company from North Dakota, and people said, hey, I'm willing to take a chance on something that has that behind it. Or is it?
Yeah, but I think when you look at like a NetSuite, how many people are really identifying with an Oracle, right? Microsoft, I think, is a lot more on the level of your typical Great Plains buyer than an Oracle, right? I'm a typical small or medium business, and I look at NetSuite and I say, well, I'm not an Oracle customer. Why would I go towards NetSuite where it looks like it's all going to be kind of merged together? And even recently, they've been talking about Zach Nelson. I mean, Jesus, the guy's been there 14 years. He's going to become an evangelist. That's like, okay, just send me my paycheck, and I'm going to go to some conferences. I'm going to give speeches, but he's not going to be the CFO or the whatever his role as president going forward. It's not like he's coming in like they're doing with LinkedIn, where Microsoft is telling LinkedIn, hey, you guys run this. We don't want you to screw it up. Zach Nelson is stepping aside. You already don't hear anything about him. So
maybe he'll run for governor of California.
Oh, it could be.
Well, it'd be interesting, too, to see if they do use that Oracle name to try to raise the NetSuite brand. When Sage has made its acquisitions over the years, it's always kind of done away with some pretty good brand names, Timberline and ACPAC, et cetera. So it'll be interesting to see if they keep NetSuite as its own brand or try to leverage the Oracle brand.
Either way, I think it knocks a lower mid-market competitor off the shelf. I think you'll see that in the coming year or two.
Yeah, it seems to flow in one direction, right? The Oracle name is not. People don't talk about the Oracle name as favorably as they talk about the NetSuite name when they talk about that acquisition. It's all Oracle's potential to sort of soil the NetSuite brand, and the people will back away because it's Oracle, not because not vice versa, right? So who knows? Maybe maybe this is a question: who could the NetSuite presence influence Oracle, or is it too big of a machine?
Okay. Yeah.
Too big of a machine.
That sounds like Peter Wolf from SMB Jump Street. Peter, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Not bad at all. What was your big, exciting story from 2016?
Well, first of all, I'm with SMB Jump Street, but I also would ask people to check out my new thing called Channel Q, which is like a CRM podcast. Actually, should I say Dynamics 365 podcast?
Yeah, that's
But it's a video.
All right.
Yeah. Well, either way, my thing was going to be Dynamics 365, but I think a lot of people are representing that. So another really cool thing that I think is going to just be represent tremendous change for all of us is the driverless cars. And they've been around for a while, but they've really just jumped forward this year. There was a pilot done in some city, I think it's still going on, where they've approved. Where was it, Ed?
Pittsburgh. Yep.
Yeah. So it's just amazing that a big city like that has approved them wholesale. And what that says to me is that coming soon to a theater near you is going to be driverless cars. So imagine next year going out to get an Uber, and the thing just like a little robot automatically pulls up in front of your house and carries you on your way in a little private conveyance system. It wouldn't even be called a car anymore, really. But I think it's just going to just change the world. Plus the long haul truckers and all the distribution logistics. It's just going to be insane where we're going to go with these things.
It's like a drone on wheels.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well,
I've had some Uber drivers that are that already, but
yeah, but as Peter says, there's so many societal implications of this thing. Just think of the fact that there's effectively when cars are driverless, localities can no longer make money giving tickets to people. I mean, there are police departments throughout this country that run on giving out tickets and speed traps, and all that goes away.
All that revenue,
the cars will never need to park; they'll just keep circling the block infinitely, creating traffic jams.
Oh man, the unintended consequences.
Yeah. All right, so that's a 2016 wrap. Some good stories there. Lots to talk about that we all spent time doing. We're getting pretty close to 2017. A couple more weeks and the year wraps up. So as we embark on a new year for next year, what are people thinking is going to occur? Anyone want to make some predictions? I guess we'll start with Darcy again.
Start with me again. Well, I don't know. We've talked a lot about the predictions. We've had a lot of predictions that we've made. Some are more realistic and some are a bit of a stretch. So,
yeah.
I thought they were all very realistic.
Like my husband's one that he told us that Dynamics 365 is going to double in size and rebrand to Dynamics 730. So we've got some like that, but we also have some others that are maybe a little bit more realistic. I like this one. I think this was Todd's. Salesforce buys or starts a LinkedIn competitor.
I think at some point they got to get into that market, but I think that will be. We were joking about 730, but I think one of the big things for me next year is I think they do have to change the branding of 365 somehow. It's just way too confusing.
That's funny. That was one of my predictions too. I think they have to do that.
Marketing, job security. Gotta love it.
It's insane. I definitely would not get any business cards printed with Dynamics 365 on it right now because something has to change there.
But they've had such good success with Office 365,
Yeah, but it doesn't represent mutually exclusive products. It's not like there's 4 versions of Excel that you can choose from under Office 365.
Right.
So
that's right. This Peter speaking. I completely agree with what Todd is saying there. I think that like from a CRM standpoint, it's very challenging now to talk about CRM because people are still looking for CRM, but Microsoft wants to present it as Dynamics 365, and then they want to sub-present it as Dynamics 365 for sales, Dynamics 365 for marketing. That stuff doesn't roll off your tongue, and it makes it very hard to communicate the messaging when half of the discussion is just saying the product name.
Yeah, we went through this many, many years ago with the Great Plains Siebel front office product.
Yeah.
I talk about rolling off the tongue. That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think they made a good move by trying to loop in the Office 365 because they've had such tremendous success. I think it just needs a little bit of tweaking. I'm not sure what that tweaking looks like because I do like the way they've made it role-based functional modules. I think that was smart. I also think it was smart to take advantage of the 365 brand from Office 365. That's why I don't believe that it will ever be 730, Darcy, because unless they're going to change Office to Office 730.
Just for that reason?
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's some good things around the branding. I just think that you still need to go where people are looking. So the CRM category is still important for people, so we still need to have that out there.
Well, could I throw in another related prediction? I think someone from Microsoft will step up in 2017 as sort of the leader and the face of Dynamics 365, or whatever changes there. I really don't feel like there's a person who represents it right now. The strongest voices seem to be from the R&D side. There's no one of the equivalent of Kirill. The highest up person I think would be Takeshi Nomoto, but he's done sort of very limited work to sort of put himself out there and be that the voice of this product line. So I think someone will step up. I don't know if it's going to be Takeshi or someone else who maybe they hire, but I think you'll see a person who represents it, which I don't know. I don't think there's anyone right now.
Bob, maybe you should send your resume.
Oh, there you go.
Attention, Mr.
Me?
Nadella.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah. I'm going to move
Product
to Redmond.
evangelist.
I'll sell it to Todd first. Okay. Yeah, okay. On all this related stuff, we talked about Salesforce maybe obtaining a LinkedIn competitor because they got beat out by Microsoft with the LinkedIn acquisition. And that closed this month. It's official. And I really feel like in 2017, we're going to see some really positive things from this acquisition. It was really expensive. Nobody ever expected that LinkedIn would be worth 20 some odd billion dollars with a B. But the possibilities with Microsoft and LinkedIn going forward and all the positive things that could happen here are really astounding.
Positive for who? For Microsoft or for me as a LinkedIn user?
Well, for both, really. Like they're talking about integrating LinkedIn with like Azure Active Directory for enterprise and things of that nature, and getting it out there, having all these people that have just more roadways to get themselves out there and known, and the training and all that sort of thing.
So I'll be negative Nancy, though. At some point, John Smith goes, I'm sick of all these people knowing this much about me. Well, and what am I getting out of it besides, yes, I get sold things that I may want, but besides that, and I think at some point there will be a big data kickback.
Too much?
Yeah, I mean, you get the stories of the guy, receiving the stuff about pregnancy and his daughter's pregnant, and Target knows it before he did, and things like that start to get a little bit scary. And I think at some point there becomes a kickback, and LinkedIn is not an essential business tool. I mean, you can stop using it.
You don't know many people that don't have a LinkedIn profile. You don't know many businesses that aren't using some iteration of a Microsoft application.
I know a lot of people that look at LinkedIn once or twice a month at most.
Yeah, I'm in there every day.
Yeah. I think it's just different. I maybe once a week I look at LinkedIn.
All right, Wayne, you're on LinkedIn all the time. What do you think?
Yeah, that's true.
What do I think about LinkedIn? What do I think about predictions for 2017?
Well, with Microsoft and LinkedIn.
Yeah. Is that a good deal?
I think it's a great deal. I mean, I think LinkedIn is sort of like and I think Peter has sort of shared this as well with me before. LinkedIn is sort of like a pseudo mini CRM. It's a great little avenue where people keep their contacts updated almost real time. They leave their job and they update it almost instantly most of the time when they found another job to go to. And I think that forms the basis of a lot of CRM, right? I mean, if you have that data, you've got sort of a gold mine there.
One warning sign I see is that the existing attempts to sort of bring together, if you're going to talk about the CRM opportunity, I don't see any sign that the CRM connection to Sales Navigator has ever been successful with dynamic CRM, that no one's really jumped on it. I don't know how successful it's been with Salesforce either. I'd be interested if anyone else knows, but I don't consider that a very good sign. It's not like there's all this groundswell of enthusiasm of bringing these systems together that they're going to build on. My sense is they put something out there and it was not very good for an integration when they were separate companies. I feel like I'm being Debbie Downer here, but I don't know that it's going to be any
welcome,
better.
Jason. Welcome.
Thank you. I don't know it's going to be any better, when they're together. I mean, sure they can obviously improve the technology.
I think as I look forward in 2017, I'm not going to be overly surprised if Microsoft takes another swing at Salesforce. I'm talking purchase.
Really?
Possibly.
Wow.
I think one of the things, I don't know if you've ever been to the Salesforce shindigs, but let me tell you, they are like the A11 of world-class conferences. Like, these guys practice, they come with their A game. And when you go in there and when you listen to them in Salesforce talks, it's not like, some kind of carnival where they're just talking product. Salesforce is talking platform, right? They're not talking CRM opportunities. When I went to New York City a couple of years back, I didn't see a single slideshow that talked about CRM or opportunity or sales pipeline. They talked about platform and how people are running their businesses and integrating to Salesforce. The word CRM very rarely was pulled up. So I think we think of Salesforce in their mission a little too narrowly sometimes in terms of CRM. And I think if you were to look at Salesforce, they think of their mission as more or less becoming a platform. Like, they've built something that you can build upon. And some companies are already starting to do that. And I think they'd like to expand on that. And I think that's probably where a lot of the growth opportunity for Salesforce is going to come. And some of the attractiveness, certainly, if somebody were to buy them. Is everyone stunned now?
Yeah. I mean,
never heard that before.
I was trying to think of other good acquisition targets, but I mean that's definitely the biggest.
So would that become Force 365?
Well, I mean, on the accounting side, I mean, there's some independents that are out there, right? Intact, Acumatica. Those are sort of in the sandboxes that we play in, the mid-market, kind of upper mid-market. These guys are all sort of waiting to try to find a spot for their IPO. And while they wait, they're targets, right? They could be acquired.
So, Ed, as our product specialist, what's your product prediction for 2017?
No, I was just reminded when you guys were talking that I remember seeing Ballmer on stage one time talking about Microsoft Commerce Server Extended Edition, and he said, we are crappy at naming products. So, I guess it's a long history. But anyway, I'll give you my prediction though for 2017, and curiously, this is industry related, but not specifically product related. I think we're going to see the emergence of a a product or series of products that come out touting their connection to either Bitcoin or some kind of cryptocurrency. And I think 2017 or early 2018 is going to be the whiplash time when Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency makes its way back to the United States. It's really, if you're following this, starting to take off in some of the developing world countries, Brazil, for example, Argentina, where their currency is not very stable, and people are having they struggle with the manipulation of the currency. I keep asking, does any product that you know of support 8 digits after the decimal point for the currency field? Because as far as I know, not many of them do, and that could potentially be a problem.
That is very interesting.
5 decimal
Problem or an
places,
opportunity?
maybe.
Ed, did you go to the session on the blockchain at ITA?
I did go to the session on blockchain, but I've had several conversations with a lot of people, including, and just to do some pushing of my podcast. But I have had Doug Sleater on twice, and he is a blockchain maven. This is fascinating technology, folks. It might not be Bitcoin that makes it out. That's what everybody knows of, but that Bitcoin is just an implementation of this technology called the blockchain. The blockchain is for real, and it's going to have an impact. I mean, if not in 2017, maybe I'm pushing the future too much, but 10, 15 years from now, we're going to be talking about the blockchain like we talk about the internet right now.
Oh, okay. I like it. Very good. Well, so we should listen to your interview with Doug Sleater to learn more then.
Yeah, listen to the interviews with Doug Sleater on that. And it's if you go thesoulofenterprise.com/Sleater and /Sleater2, I think you can find him.
Could I throw out one other prediction, since it's sort of a non-dynamics prediction? One of the things I picked up on this year was how many people in our readership anyway are kind of accepting of this term digital transformation, which sounds very much like just a buzzword, but people seem to actually say, okay, that describes what we're dealing with in our organization in terms of investment and the ways we're trying to change what we do as opposed to just upgrading our systems. Anyway, I think related to that, and maybe related to driverless cars too, to Peter's point, is I think there's going to be a reckoning, and I don't know if it'll happen in 2017, but around the role that automation and all the excitement in sort of the enterprise software world that goes into its role in automating and potentially automate people out of jobs and changing the economy in some very fundamental ways, which has obviously been in the news a lot. I think this particular little corner of the business world will have to take a larger place in that conversation, and I think that could happen this year.
I think you're absolutely right. That was a big topic at the ITA, the Information Technology Alliance Conference last week in Vegas. We had a presentation by an economist, and the question definitely came up: if all of these, some of these economic indicators that aren't so great, jobs, et cetera, and yet we're talking about automation, and we're the ones making that automation happen. It's definitely a huge concern. Absolutely.
Bot that implements your ERP software.
Wow.
Quick, we need to invent that.
I know. Yeah. Opportunity.
I mean, we're all talking about, a lot of the ISVs out there, Avalara, Website Pipeline, we're talking about automating some of the customer service activities, some of the tax activities, things like that. I mean, that's what we're all doing, right?
Right.
Yep.
And the inefficiencies are hours, right? They're hours that you pay an employee. They're extra employees to do extra jobs that aren't going to be there. But, and to some extent, you can redeploy those people, right?
To some extent, not all.
Well, and I think the other emergence here that's related to this, what you that are talking about, is the connection of the Internet of Things to the ERP space. Mm-hmm. That was another great presentation, Darcy. I don't know if you saw it. Tim Cho.
I did. It was great.
And another guest that I've had, he's a fascinating guy. But one of the things that he talked about, which I hadn't heard him say before, is that there is a problem that needs to be solved before Internet of Things becomes ubiquitous, especially in tying it to ERP or accounting software. And it's an interesting problem because he said, right now we've been solving downflow of information. We need to be able to watch a billion people need to watch the World Cup, or I think he said the Victoria's Secret catalog release. He's a very, you can tell he's a professor. He's got his lines down, but he says, but the problem with Internet of Things and connecting it is the exact reverse. And that is, if you have I think he said a wind farm that has 10,000 sensors that are uploading information at the rate of 100 times a second, you actually have an upload problem of the collection of this data, and that is a problem that needs really to be solved first. So he says it will be solved. He's very confident that it will be, but I think that's something we got to look for in 2017 as well.
Another thing he said that I kind of had on my list of predictions, because I had the IoT and ERP on there, but also what he said was interesting about who owns the data in some of these scenarios. There's going to be a lot of, Wild West out there figuring that out.
Yep, and the question, I don't know if you remember, but I asked him and I said is, you can tie ownership of the data to the business model. In other words, you can say, listen, hey, just think about this from an ERP perspective. We'll give you your ERP for free, nameless ERP. We'll give you your nameless ERP for free, but you got to give us your data. And how many people would say, yep, oh, sure. The whole LinkedIn thing again, all over again, except this time with accounting data. We're going to keep it anonymous in the fact that it's, you're not going to know who your customers are or your vendors are, but we're going to use it for data aggregation. And if you allow us to do that, we'll give you your software for free. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Having not thought about that at all, I say I can't imagine it, but I haven't really thought it through.
Well, but think about it from this perspective. You're going to clearly get initial pushback from people, controllers who are going to be like, "Hey, I'm not going to give up my data. I'm not going to allow that to happen."
Right.
But once you tie it to the business model, right? Once you say, "I give you either a price break or I give it to you for free if you're willing to share the data with me," that changes the conversation.
That's the way a lot of the software that runs like the loyalty programs at supermarkets and stuff, that's exactly the way it works. They give that to the supermarket chains for free, maintain it, host it, do everything. They just get the data of the buying practices. So the data is far more valuable than the annual renewal on that software. So
not only that, this is to take this one step further, and this was a session that was given at Digital CPA, Darcy. So I don't know if you made it over to that side of the fence on Tuesday, but there was a futurist there who's working with Federal Express, right? And he says the future business model of Federal Express is free delivery in exchange for the data.
What kind of company would be able to take advantage of all that data? I don't think a software company is tooled up to profit from the data right now.
And you're absolutely right. Here's the problem, right? And this
is everything going to be owned by American Express?
No. Well, but here's the thing: the software companies of today don't have it, but that which kills you does not look like you. Right?
Okay, I've never heard that before, Ed. I think you made that up.
Except for your evil twin.
Right.
Should be.
Sounds like there was a lot of good
universe.
A lot of good topics
That's
at the ITA Collaborative in Vegas earlier in December. Stan Mork's got something good going there, I would say.
I think I would have needed a couple drinks, though, to comprehend some of them. But
my gosh, you have no idea. That's why I had a couple drinks.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drinking does help.
All right. Peter, you've been awful quiet. You got any predictions?
What do you got?
Well, I've heard a lot of great stuff here. I like the blockchain thought. I think that's coming. I'm not sure if it's going to come as fast as Ed thinks. It seems like these things roll out. Same thing with the driverless car. I thought, it would be here by now, and it's still just coming. It's kind of like this is the year of BI, right? Isn't that what they say every year? And so BI will be here any year now. I think
since Forest and Trees in the 1980s. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that's probably a guarantee is what Wayne was talking about. On our podcast, the SMB Jump Street, we talk a lot about all these different little tools out there, right? There's like all these little small little apps that do the same thing, like these team-based collaboration tools. And something like Slack, for example, I think they're for a world of hurt now that Microsoft has set their eyes in that market. And for whatever reason, instead of buying yet another product, Microsoft decided to migrate or morph something they already had into the Slack competitor. And it's going to get harder and harder for these tools to survive independently when their functionality gets rolled into Office 365 for free or a nominal upcharge. And so it's going to be interesting to see if these guys get out in time and sell out in time, or if they just kind of fade away. The other option is that, many years ago, Microsoft went into the antivirus software and everyone sounded the death knell of antivirus software, but it didn't actually do that. What happened was they actually sprang up. There's more than ever different antivirus choices out there. So, who the hell knows if my prediction's right or wrong? I think that it could go either way, but I think that consolidation is going to be a big part of the play next year. I think customers just want simplicity in their life, and I think Microsoft has got the strong hand because they're selling the simplicity with Office 365.
We can't skip talking about next year in Sage North America. We talk about Sage all the time on Enterprise Software Podcast, and I'm sure the other guys do too. They're making so many
North
changes.
America branch?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I got a prediction. I think one executive is going to leave Sage sometime in 2017.
Sometime in the next 4 weeks.
Going out on a limb.
That's risky. What's going to happen to that group next year? Anything? Are they settled?
Well, I think bigger question. Take that and expand it a little bit. Is there any major ERP package that next year gets an end of life notice? SL, I'm looking at you. But no, I mean, we keep talking about
not from Sage.
We keep talking about consolidation, but the number of products stays the same, and in some cases increases. At some point, some brave person at one of these companies steps up and goes, "Hey, we're not going to do this anymore. You want this functionality? It's available in 5 other of our products. Go to one of those." So, does one of those products get an end of life notice next year? I think it has to happen at some point. I don't know if it's 2017, but it's got to happen soon.
I don't know. I think you look back at the history of some of these products. Let me bring up an oldie but a goodie, Real World. Anybody remember Real World from years and years?
Yes.
I mean, we used to make almost our sole living converting people off of Real World. I just ring the cash register when somebody said, "We're moving from Real World," because we could do anything that Real World could do, and we do it twice as well. But Real World, I saw that package for years and years and years, and that thing just never went away. It was being supported by people that appeared to make an okay living supporting it, and it just didn't fall off a cliff. And I'm not sure ERP ever does that, provided you have people that are paying maintenance on it.
We still update the tax tables of BusinessWorks.
Really?
No kidding.
Holy crap!
Why not? Why not? You got people on, right?
Yeah.
I think in the ERP space, it seems more like the partners that get end of lives, not the products.
Right.
Get absorbed.
Absolutely.
The SL partners get absorbed by the.
Well, the one thing I think that when you bring up partners, the one thing that I've noticed in the last 3 or 4 months, and I first noticed this at the Acumatica launch up in Boston, is some of the publishers are starting to talk openly about getting rid of partners. Right? We didn't hear about that for a long, long time. That was sort of like something that publishers never talked about. Yet Taylor McDaniel was on your podcast a little while ago, and he talked quite openly about it. Said, we let the underperformers go. And at Acumatica, I forget what their metric was. They're like, yeah, we're letting underperforming partners go. And that's something that I haven't. But
do you know anybody that's been
for quite some time?
Does anybody know anybody that's been let go by one of those publishers, though?
I'm sure if I looked around enough, I could have a few names for you. But off the top of my head,
I think I know some underperformers in some of those channels who are still there.
But to even
just
talk,
saying,
I agree though. To even talk about it though, I mean, they never, for years and years, Microsoft Sage, everybody would take money from anybody. I mean, they were in no way choosy. I mean, we saw in the Microsoft channel, we saw multiple attempts to get rid of the small partner. Putting some sort of hurdle that you had to get over, and that hurdle got lower and lower and lower. And then eventually, I mean, now we don't even have certification exams or anything. I mean, basically, if you can sign the paper, you're a partner.
Right.
So, But I do see, I think that has to change, and it will change. I mean, and to hear them talking about it, I think is a healthy thing for the market, honestly. I'd like to hear Microsoft talk about that a little bit.
All right. So thanks again, everybody, for this great conversation. Final thoughts from, start with Jason at msdynamicsworld.com. Jason, you got anything to wrap up with?
I think, Microsoft, from my perspective, where I'm probably watching the most, I think is in for a big year, trying to absorb this huge acquisition and keep partners happy at the same time, and also direct a range of products that are changing. So they're going to be sort of managing a huge raft of changes, and it's just going to be very interesting to watch them watch that all unfold.
Yeah, agreed. Peter Wolf and Wayne Schultz from SMB Jump Street. Gentlemen, anything to wrap up with? Peter, you can go first.
No, I think I've said my spiel. I really like a lot of the ideas I heard today. I'm a big believer in where Microsoft is headed to. I know that some of their execution details maybe leave something to be desired, but I think their strategy is sound, and I think that overall they're moving very quickly for such a large company. And I would not be surprised if every one of us alive on this planet isn't giving them like $70 a month before the end of next year.
Yeah, that's not unrealistic, quite honestly.
$70 is awful high.
$69.99.
Yeah. Wayne.
I'm with Peter. I think this is an Office 365 world. We're just living in it. I don't think it's going to get any weaker before it gets a lot stronger. I think Microsoft has, built a huge moat here, much as they did with the original Office. This is sort of their round two in terms of reemerging maybe from the ashes. And the other thing I'm looking at for next year is Sage. Sage, I figure, is one of my beliefs is that reorgs come in 3-year patterns. Next year will be 3 years for Stephen Kelly. I think we'll be at the point where we're going to see whether Sage is going to take off or whether things are going to start reorging again.
Ed Kless. Ed, I don't even know where to start with you. You have so many things going on. Soul of Enterprise. Where else do we find you? And do you have any wrap
Sage
up?
Advice Sage Advice Podcast. But yeah, just to say peace and prosperity to everyone, and entrepreneurs, keep innovating. You're what's keeping us alive. So thank you from me to all of those of you who innovate and create.
Todd McDaniel.
I think related to what Ed said too, I think we're going to look back 12 months from now, and there will be at least one thing that all of us will go, wow, never would have saw that coming.
Right.
So there's somebody out there right now that has an idea in a basement somewhere, and 9 months from now we'll all be going, wow, that's a game changer. So
Rise of Skynet. Never saw it coming.
But no, it's going to be 2017 is definitely going to be an interesting year. So I look forward to it.
And Darcy Boerio, website pipeline and enterprise software.
Yeah, so I think that game changer in 9 months is coming from website pipeline that we'll see. I'm just just a little teaser there, but no.
And this is Bob McAdam, Enterprise Software Podcast. Nothing else to wrap up with other than to say thank you all. Great friends, great chat, and we appreciate it. And looking forward to a prosperous and chat-filled 2017.